Now, can you still see me? Okay, we're live.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are live. Okay,
All right.
so hello everybody. We are live. I have Dave on another screen, which technology compromised, obviously. And we're going to do an interview to talk about today's dealings with disruptions and all the horrible stuff we're hearing. But the revelations that I've been given that everything's going to be okay. Not that this stuff isn't going to happen. I really do believe it is. But I do know we're all going to be okay. And that's what I want to talk to you about now, is so that you know not to live in fear. Okay. And why. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave. I have Dave Turner with me. I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
There is no picture to give you.
Yeah.
If you could please introduce yourself behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, the invisible man is
Yeah.
Dave Turner. Dave, who are you? And
Yeah.
say hi to my audience.
Hi. Well, I don't know how much I want to get into who I am, but I'm retired. Let's put it that way, and I'm glued to the terrifying information. So I'm quite aware of that reality that probably a lot of retired people are experiencing right now. And so I'm looking forward to this chat. And I don't know, how's that?
That's wonderful. Thank you, Dave. Okay, so and thank you, audience, for watching. So I'm sure you have questions too. And quite frankly, if you would like for me to answer, I do pray a lot. I do believe it's very important for us to be close to our Creator, because if we're close to our Creator, we have total protection. Okay, there's all kinds of biblical stories that I'm not going to quote Bible because I'm not very good at it, but about there's like three guys who went into this fiery furnace and stuff, and they walked out fine. Okay, that's the moral of this story. That when you actually put your faith in our Creator, who created you for a purpose, you're taken care of. Okay, so if you just want to skip everything and walk away with that, lots of prayers, and know that God's not going to let down his children is a good thing. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about all this horrible stuff that is proposed to happen to us, and how to best deal with it and keep a good attitude. Because last thing you want is a bad attitude, or last thing I want anybody to have is a bad attitude. So anyway, you have any questions, Dave? What would be your first question you'd like to ask?
Well, yeah, that's a good. Just that very last thing you were talking about, it's just the attitude, and I notice that people can be in a negative orientation or a positive orientation. And yeah, I think it's easy to get into negativity and to sort of dwell on that. And but to be conscious and turn it around and
Okay, well let me
construct
okay,
positivity.
Yeah, well, let me take over from here. It's been about a month since I posted, and I originally, I set this channel up as my way of giving back, um, and for to be an instrument for good, actually. So, and part of that story is, I was supposed to die from hepatitis C. I was given 6 months to live back in 1999, and back then there wasn't a cure for hepatitis C. Well, obviously, I didn't die. And I think part of that was basically I got down on my hands and knees and said, look, why send someone else to do your work? If you let me stick around, I'll do your work for you. And quite frankly, all of a sudden I went into remission. I mean, there was a lot along the way, Mayo Clinic and all that stuff. But back then, hepatitis C was a death sentence. So anybody who who had hepatitis C back then, you know what I'm talking about. And this is 2021. So 22 years later, I'm still going strong. Okay. But I think a lot of it was me getting on my hands and knees and saying, use me for whatever. And I had no idea that we would be living through what we're living through right now. But back in March of 2020, when I'm in Las Vegas, so when the strip shut down, I was like, oh my gosh, what would ever cause that to happen? It was very obvious. A friend sent to me, he says, I could hardly wait for it to get back to normal. And I said, it'll never be normal again. And it won't be. So, yeah, I enjoy watching a lot of the negativity that's posted on YouTube only because there's a lot of people doing a lot of research and they're seeing some stuff that I'm saying, I see the validity behind what they're saying. Unfortunately, it's causing a lot of fear and unrest, and a lot of people don't know how to cope with it. So that's what I want to do is kind of like show you that if there is ever going to be 1,000 years of peace, the corruption that is in this world has to go away. Okay, you cannot have 1,000 years of peace that supposedly is coming one day and have the corruption in this world as it is. So another thing is a saying that I used to have on my refrigerator. It's still there. Um, when nothing changes, nothing changes. Well, obviously everything's changing. Okay, so right now everything is changing, and I believe these are all necessary actions. But that doesn't mean that it's it could be a beautiful and graceful transformation, okay, for those who walk with our creator, or it could be terrifying for those who feel that they're in it alone. And that's where I encourage everyone to come home to their real purpose. When we're born, we come into this world knowing right from wrong. So everybody knows right from wrong. Even those that are deep in corruption, they know they're doing wrong. Okay. Nobody comes into this world without knowing right from wrong, but there is free will. And unfortunately, this world is set up so that those who are corrupt benefit and gain from the system that they have in place. And that's the kind of world that they choose to live in. And that's the rules that they play by. I'm not saying those have to be the rules that you have to accept. Okay. You could accept your own rules, and those being that you are a child of the most divine creator ever that any of us would ever know. Okay. And so you actually come from royalty yourself, and in you, inside every single person, is the truth. It's just being able to access that. So maybe we should talk a little bit about that, if that helps. Okay. Because I do believe that we are getting to the point to where this is the fall of Rome. Okay. And I do believe that everything that is happening intentionally. I have a friend who lives near a military base, an airport, Air Force, military, and it's inland. And I believe that what is happening between what's going on in the Ukraine and everything that we're hearing on social media is is not being reported accurately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I think this is the means to an end. Okay, to usher in. Um, quite frankly, I could see where they want to go with a new digital currency for a couple of reasons. Okay, not so much what the people. And this is what Revelation is telling me. Our fiat system, our dollars, the U.S. dollars, are we are in so much debt. The United States, back when everything started being shipped into other countries because their labor was cheap, it was really a beneficial thing if you stop and think about it, because instead of paying $45 for a piece that or an item that we only pay $4 for, we were able to do that because we didn't have the labor issues. Unfortunately, everything right now that is material wise has been outsourced. We really don't do much manufacturing in the U.S. like we used to back when I was a kid growing up. My father worked for Lever Brothers, which is Mrs. Butterworth's, Imperial Margarine, Whisk, Dove. And there's Procter and Gamble. They make a lot of stuff too. Anyway, but my father worked for Lever Brothers, and he was a union worker, and it was manufacturing. All those jobs got sourced. They're in some other country right now, but we're still buying Whisk, Imperial Margarine, what have you. Okay, that's just not being made here in the U.S. And it kind of makes sense because nobody's going to want to pay the cost that we've been paying for a lot of stuff has been very low, considering um, things really haven't changed. I mean, if you watch on television, there's a game show called Supermarket Sweep, and don't quote me on that, but that's got to be decades old, okay? And they would ask people, what is the cost for this item? And the same items that we have today. And it's like, it's the same cost. It's the same cost back what they were doing that to what we're seeing in our supermarkets today. And even for some stuff, it was more expensive back then to what we're able to get it for today. Okay. So a lot of people are crying about all the jobs left the U.S. Yes, but if you look at it, there's always that two-edged sword. So is it the good or the bad? And I see the good of it happening. Unfortunately, right now we're not in a position to be upsetting. Being we're recording live, I have to watch my language, but we are not in a position to be upsetting a lot of people the way I think we are upsetting a lot of people or a lot of countries, but I think it's being done intentionally. All right. I hate to say this, but when this war that we're in, I think it's designed so that we lose it. All right. Just so that you know. And the only reason for that is our dollar has to go away. There isn't enough money right now, supposedly. It's been squandered, it's been poorly invested, blah, blah, blah. The whole list goes on. But there's a lot of baby boomers like you and me, and supposedly there isn't enough money there to be able to provide for all the rest of the people who are getting ready to retire. And I've heard estimates saying that, like, not even with things going good, like maybe 13 years, and it's like the funds are totally depleted. But in the meantime, you have fewer children entering the work stream, and that's where that money is coming. It's it's a steal from Peter to pay Paul syndrome. Okay. So, and there is a lot of corruption. I'm not saying there isn't a lot of corruption. Now, I'm going to give a revelation that I am praying a lot, and I want everybody to know who's watching this that the future is changeable. Okay, there are powers beyond those in power and beyond our control that basically prayers will bring about. I survived hepatitis C, and I am living proof 20 some years later. Why? Because my prayers were answered. All right. So, and I have a puppy around here who's now taking a nap who had parvo and almost died and survived because of prayers. I cannot emphasize strongly how important prayers are. They they're answered when they're said sincerely. So our futures can be changed with enough prayers and with the proper type of prayers. But I do see a world happening to where our dollar is not going to be the way it is, and the U.S. dollar is no longer the currency for the world. I mean, they're still using it, okay, but we used to be tied into the petrodollar, and like right now, Russia, China, India, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, Brazil, India, and S, Saudi Arabia. Okay, that spells out BRICS. They decided, okay, we're coming up with our own new currency, and supposedly it's digitally based. So when that happens, and that becomes the new world currency, U.S. dollars are going to be like the pesos or whatever. I mean, they'll still be dollars, but they're not going to have the strength that the international currency is going to have. And at that point, eventually it's going to just come to where there will be one currency and it'll be digital. All right. So is that good or bad? Just like the same way with, Imperial margarine being less today than it was on Supermarket Sweep. Okay. Yeah, I could see good and bad happening. Now, the negativity that's being reported for a lot of this, yes, I could see where there's a lot of harm. Also, the supply chains, where people are talking about how the supply chains are going down. I believe that there is a lot to that, because when I go to Walmart and I place my online order, there's a lot of stuff that's there one day and next day it's not. Okay. So they're not able to fulfill things as quickly. However, I was watching, and I'll mention names, Economic Ninja. I subscribe to him, so anyone watches him. But, he's been reporting all these horrible devastations for months. And, it turns out that a lot of what he does say materializes because it is coming. But what people don't realize, and this doesn't apply to me, is a lot of the YouTube channels, if you look, if there's any amount of following, YouTube is set up for marketing to make money. So if you have something to where you have a good following and people click you on and watch, you see those commercials in the beginning. Well, those commercials actually are a way for YouTube to monetize its ability to stay in business. And as a result of that, the more people who actually see these commercials, they are sent checks. I believe it's every 28 days for how many people, how many followers they have. Now there's limits. Like if you're at one limit, like you've got 1 million followers, you're getting paid a certain amount, and you have all these other benefits that come to you. I am a small person. I do not receive any money from YouTube. If one day I get to that, that would be really great. Let's be real. Everybody could spend more money than they have coming in. But what I do notice is a lot of people that gathered a following that are on YouTube every day, and they are sensationalizing what they're reporting. Okay. And it's to get people to click in, but what they're saying is people are listening, but I think it's more marketing. They're more concerned at this point about marketing their presentation than in and I'm not saying a lot of what they're reporting isn't factual. It's just I think they're more interested in the marketing. Okay. So they're coming up with these headings that, like, for example, and I bought some. Okay, so let's talk about gold and silver. Okay, because this is one. I see these headings where gold and silver is going to go to like $10,000 an ounce. And people are saying, buy gold and silver now. But yet you watch and you see what's going on. It's like gold and silver have been dropping for like the last few months. So other people are coming in saying that this is being manipulated and all that. Well, yes, there are people who own most of the money supply in the world. And I could see where they are in a position to manipulate, but is that really what's happening? Heck, I don't know. But what I do know is if you go and you do your research online, there KOEMA is a report that came out from the World Bank, okay, that talks about where the future is going to be into 2030 to show what the cost of gold, silver, palladium, oil, all of your commodities. I mean, they track that. And this is years old, okay? And they have charts showing. And they actually showed for Koemna, Koemna, all right? They actually showed that, like, in 2022, silver was going to drop down to, because I went and I bought a couple ounces of silver with all this going on, thinking, well, what the heck? Why not? You know what I mean? It doesn't cost that much. And then once I bought it, I went to a local coin dealer and they wanted like $31 an ounce. And then once, because they got the spot price. But back then, spot, I want to say, was like $28 an ounce. And this was, when all these horrors started coming out, like, oh, you got to buy it now. Anyway, so that was at the high, and at 28, now it's dropped down. Now it's closer to like 21, somewhere around 21. Anyway, and yes, there isn't a lot of availability for people to get it. So there's spot price, which is the price they quote, and then there's really what you pay to buy the stuff. But you can still get it for like maybe $26, $24, and it depends where you're looking and how much you're buying and your method of buying it, for a lot cheaper than the $31 an ounce that I got from a local coin dealer. Okay. Anyway, after I found that, that's when I found this KOEMNA report. And it says that by next year, Yeah, I believe it's next year. Silver is going to be $20 an ounce. Okay. And it's not until 2030 that it actually starts going up again. So all I'm saying is the information that people are putting out there with the headlines, gold and silver to get to $10,000 an ounce. Yes, people click that on. And then what they talk about, I think it's more for the marketing than not. So I just want people to follow your instincts. Okay. When I bought that, and I didn't follow my instinct on this one, when I bought that silver, I was so convinced that what I was seeing on this alternative media was true that I didn't pay attention to my stomach was literally turning. Okay. And, that was a way, someone telling me, hey, don't go take your money and go buy silver because it's probably not going to be worth what you pay for it. Now, is it ever going to drop to zero? No. Okay. But with the dollars that I had, like $31, okay, that probably would have bought me a lot more today than buying some silver that I can't eat, can't use, not good for anything, that dropped in price because I listened to some alternative media person talking about how important this was, okay, with the whole world falling apart. And that is the purpose for me making this video, is there are enough good people in this world that are praying for okay, so the new terminology, for a smooth landing, okay, for things to change in a positive way. And I think that's very important. Unfortunately, what I do see, and this is where I do want prayers being said, is there are a lot of corrupt people in positions of power today, in positions that really make a difference of what affects our lives. And those people, there's an election coming up. And I gotta tell you, this is what I'm laughing because I keep getting people calling me for these surveys. Who are you going to vote for? What do you think of this person, with that person? And I'm to the point where I tell them to go away because why would I tell you what I'm really thinking so that they can go take that information and then that candidate can come out of their mouth to say, hey, this is what people really want, what they want to hear. And it's all a bunch of BS. And then for me, I'm sure it applies to you. Ever since I was young and got the right to vote, which is 18, and I'm already retired in my 60s now. So a long time. I have been interviewing people. Who did you vote for? Who did you vote for? Okay. And I'm going to give a good example going back to when George Bush Sr. won the election. All right. His second time was, Clinton actually won it on that, but he was running for the second time. So Ross Perot was running for to be president, and everybody loved Ross Perot. I'll tell you, out of 100 people, 98 of them were voting for Ross Perot. Okay. Now at the last minute, Ross Perot dropped out, and I believe my own personal belief is he dropped out probably because someone got some kind of goods on him to threaten him, or a family member or something dear in his life, to where he said, hey, it's not worth it, I'm walking away. Okay. So that left Clinton and that left Bush, and Clinton ended up winning. So I found one Democrat person out of this 100, okay, where 98 were voting for Ross Perot. One was going to vote for Clinton because they were Democrat. That's it. If you're Democrat, we vote Democrat and we don't even think about it. And another person was voting for Bush. And I said, why are you voting for Bush? And he made sense. He says, at least you know what you get. And I thought, well, that makes good sense. But everybody else was voting for Ross Perot. Well, anyway, Clinton ended up getting it. And then you look at the next election where there was Gore and Bush Jr. running. And in Florida, all these dead people are voting and what have you. And Bush ended up getting it. But supposedly that was showing that where there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes for who was making who was going to make it into office too. So I'm getting back to the corruption part of it. If there are people with a lot of power whose goal is to serve themselves and not do good, okay, I don't think there's anything they would stop at to continue to serve themselves. So right now, I think the rest of the world is pretty much fed up with a lot of stuff. I mean, that is one thing that has come out now with all these lockdowns and people sitting at home and going, what the is going on? A lot of questioning. And when you ask questions, you get answers. Are you getting the right answer? I don't know. That's where a lot of people are on this YouTube media, you know, they're serving a wonderful purpose. They're sending a lot of stuff out there, but a lot of them, like I said, are promoting hype. And I'm not saying this stuff isn't going to happen. I do believe that we are moving to a one world digital currency. I do believe that we are short on commodities, that an example, the TV program Bonanza up in near Lake Tahoe, where you had the Cartwrights, Little Joe, Hoss, Adam, Ben Cartwright. Okay. They had timber and this is going back to what, 1800s? Okay, so according to the Bonanza series, when they culled their timber, chopped down their timber, they planted seedlings so that 20, 30 years later, there was trees growing. Okay. Well, we have not done that. We have just stripped our planet of just about every resource that was there for the taking, not in a lot of ways planning down I'm not saying everyone is, but as a general rule, like the palm plants, the palm trees, the palm oil, to where we've gone in and devastated, literal areas and wiped out species and stuff, to make palm oil because it's cheap for our cooking. We have not we have decimated a lot of resources that I think we should have taken better care of. All right. We could have recycled a lot more. We've got islands of garbage, islands of plastic floating around. Okay, this is not recycling. Plastic is recyclable, okay, but we're not doing that. It's cheaper to dump it than to recycle it. So, as a result, I do see where a lot of our resources have been diminished. But I also see that we are now more aware, and I do see good coming from this. But getting back to what I said before, if we're going to ever have 1,000 years of peace come in, we have to not have corruption. We have to have good hearted people and those who are capable of goodness in power, looking forward to good. So I think that is important to know, that we're not alone, and that a lot of what we're seeing is, in one way, I do see a lot of the negativity that they are reporting getting ready to happen. I do know that Edgar Casey, I don't know if anyone's familiar with him, but he was known as the sleeping prophet. And he went and he tapped into the Akashic records and was able to report stuff that was going to happen in the future. And he was talking about pole changes and all. Well, a lot of the disturbances that we're seeing with our weather, to where we have flooding on the coastal areas where they don't need water, and we have drought on the inner areas where they do need water. People are blaming it on HARP, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist, because I actually do believe it does exist. But I also feel that our planet itself is going through a transition as well. Okay, and this is just all part of that playing out. So I do believe that we're going to be okay. I do know that we do live forever. I have had out of body experiences, and I've been given a lot of gifts to know that we do live forever. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. But I don't want a lot of people being afraid and not knowing where to turn, when actually something as simple as prayers, and to take what you're hearing. And the next time you're out shopping, if buy extra food. I did. What's it going to hurt you? It saves you a trip to the grocery store, which I'm thankful I have now, because it's almost $6 a gallon. It was better when I was paying two, but anyway, at least I got the food in my pantry that I could use instead of whatever. Okay, and if SHT, something hitting the fan does happen, at least you're prepared for it. But I think it is important for people to stock up and to be prepared for a number of reasons. If people are not prepared, okay, there's going to be chaos. And what people will do to protect their family, they're not going to care who they hurt or kill to get food to feed a child. Does that make sense? But if those people have stocked up and they have food, then that doesn't even cross their mind. So I think it is important to plan for the worst and to pray for the best and to know that you're going to be protected. I don't know if I went too off tangent on a lot of this. Hopefully I didn't, but
Well,
what do you think?
You covered the broad array of concerns. I mean, those are all the thoughts that flow through my mind on a daily basis, in and out, and turn on the internet and you read stuff, and you want to stay up to date on what's going on and have a good idea about how to make decisions. And yeah, so I mean, you pretty much covered so much of it there, and that's where we're at.
Well, another thing is that I was seeing a lot on the internet about all these food manufacturing plants burning down. Okay, and how and so I was at Walmart doing some. I went to go get some Sudafed or whatever, and I decided to stock up on some stuff there and to check. Well, I was in the local, not the mega store. I was in like the neighborhood market, Walmart. Everything was packed to the max. I mean, there was no shortage of anything anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big, I eat vegan. I mean, sometimes I have meat, but usually I'm more vegan in my diet. Anyway, I thought, let's check out what this meat is because from what I hear, it's like really expensive. They had chicken. I mean, they weren't big. They were like little chicken. They looked more like, I don't know, like small chickens, like that size chicken. Okay. For $1.24, which I thought was a great price. Then I saw, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't even know if this screen will show it, but it's bigger than the chair that I'm sitting in. That's got to be at least 30 inches. Racks of rib bones, but I mean, it looked like the side of a beef. I mean, it was that big, like big bones. Like the bones were like, oh gosh, 12 inches wide, long. And then the rack itself was at least 2 foot. Okay. That whole package of ribs. I thought about getting them just to because oh my gosh, was $15.25.
Yeah.
That's huge. To me, that was huge.
What's going on there? Because that's an exception. That they may be selling off some.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe something happened to where like supposedly there's this avian bird flu or whatever, so they killed a bunch of chickens. And maybe that's why they're now $1.24. But I don't think Walmart would sell anything that would come back to legally bite them in the butt. Okay, like, oh, we got like unhealthy chicken, so let's sell them for $1.24. But maybe that was part of that, and like maybe I heard that. Well, this is where the pole reversal, the solar flares, the EMTs or the EMF, the electromagnetic frequencies that like would shut, like for a nuclear attack, that would shut down your car and all your electronics, kill that. Anyway, supposedly there's a bunch of cattle, like 100, or 1,000, I think it was 100, a couple hundred head of cattle that died. I want to say Kansas. Don't quote me on any of that, please. Anyway, but they died. Okay, thank you. You know what? Okay, but that's what I'm talking about. So maybe part of that was like that cattle was like, they're healthy. There's nothing wrong with them. Let's get this to the market. Maybe my neighborhood market, Walmart, was the recipient of something that I don't know. All I know is there was a lot of flipping meat and a hamburger, and I mean just cheap, like very inexpensive stuff. So
that's weird.
Well, no, that's not weird. This is what is weird. What is weird is that people do not realize that the power of their prayers have meaning. And I don't want to sound like I'm coming off as some type of evangelistic preacher or whatever, but I know a lot of people have been praying, and I really do believe, just like what I was talking about with Lever Brothers, how everything went to like other countries for their labor, and it's not in the United States. But we're paying less for Mrs. Well, probably not today, but we were paying less for like Mrs. Butterworth's and Imperial Margarine in the United States because the manufacturing cost was so low in another country than to ship it back in. So even with a lot of the horrors that are happening, I'm not saying that we have to experience something really bad, and I mean, it doesn't sound good. And I'm getting back to that marketing that, it's like negativity sells. It's people hear something negative, they hold on to that. And I think a lot of what's being reported is negative. And in the meantime, the people who are doing this, they're cashing in on a lot of that. Now, there was another guy, and I'm very upset with this, where he was talking about the pyramid code and TLS. Jason Shirka, he's online here, and my heart really went out to him because I thought he was, and if I'm wrong about this, Jason, I don't want to put down anybody, but what I've seen is it's always about the money. And so now all these new programs are being like promoted on his end, with other people. Okay, and we should look into this, and this is good. And then when I look into that, they want to charge, like they have a seminar where they want to talk about the laws of humanity. That's one. I listened to that. It was free for a while. And what they were proposing was stuff that I wouldn't opt for coming from a loving environment. The people were, in my opinion, too radical. I am not a radical person. I do not want to be radical. And I do believe in the war between good and bad. Good will prevail, provided you're good. Okay. So when you start getting radical, I think you're kind of walking away from that good part. Anyway.
Yeah, the situation though, like we're forced into earning money. That's the problem. Everybody has to acquire it. And so that's a big force that pushes people. So when you see marketing, it's like so much of the marketing, it makes sense because everyone is being pushed to earn money to get what they need.
Yes. And I think if we're going to have 1,000 years of peace, you have to do it without corrupting. Okay. So, good things don't sell like bad things do. Fear sells. So, like I said, this one thing.
I heard this CNN guy talking, like they got a secret camera on him, and he said the fear sells. That's what we do. We pump out the fear because we need to get the views.
Well, there you have it. So, getting back to what I saw in my neighborhood Walmart, whether this is because all the cattle died and, the avian flu for the birds or whatever, and why take a chance? I saw some really inexpensive meat deals, but other stuff was still the same price too that I've been paying for the last few years. So I'm happy to see that, and I hope that doesn't change. And right now the last one that I heard was supposedly it's going to be like a diesel fuel oil. Okay. And so trucks are not going to be able to operate unless they have a year's supply because no one is making diesel fuel oil anymore. And, that sounds horrible. It's like, oh my gosh, no transportation. There's no power. If there's no transportation, there's no power for the coal powered plants. There's no nothing. Okay. Unless you're doing it all with a bicycle and by hand. Okay. Nothing to move it. And anyway, I thought, well, that's interesting. So I needed an oil change on my car. And I went down to the local oil change place here. And, the prices are pretty ridiculous. But I got an oil change, and I got the synthetic oil, which is supposedly good for 10,000 miles. And they had the brand that they were using. Growing up as a kid, nobody would put in their car because it was like just sludge. Okay. But my oil was dirty. The light was on. I thought, you know what, just do it and change it later. So they took care of that. And I had my radiator flushed out and some other stuff. Car's running really good, but I need a new oil change because the oil that they use is the garbage that I don't want to put in my car. Anyway, so now I'm hearing about this. And they want, this is the other thing. When I was having they wanted $100, $99 for a fuel treatment. I go, $99? It's like, what the heck? The last time I did one of those, it was like $2 just for a bottle you put in the gas tank. And they go, they go, that's what we do. We just put it in the gas tank, but we charge $99. Let's not forget that. So he says, go get it, put your gas tank. So anyway, I'm hearing on this alternative media about how now trucks aren't going to run because there's no diesel oil. All right. All the plants have gone down, said no more. We're not doing it. And I thought, oh, shoot, I got to get some oil for my car. So that's what the guy told me. He says, look, next time you don't have to use our oil. Just get your own oil. Come on in with the filter and, give us $30 and we'll put your oil in that you want to run with. I said, that sounds good. So anyway, I went online and AutoZone, which is right around the block from me. I thought I'll just go see what they want for oil. Okay. Well, I like Pennzoil and I like Castrol. Okay. Those are my two favorite oils. So anyway, and they wanted a lot for a quart of oil, like but anyway, so they had a five quart container of Pennzoil synthetic, the stuff that goes for 10,000 miles. Guess how much?
I don't know. $10, $5.
Well, $19, which I thought was a good price. And I'm thinking 20. I'm thinking this is normal, okay? And then the oil filter was 10, so $30. I mean, granted, but that was close to like about what it used to be to get an oil change. You know what I mean? So now. Yeah. So now doing it with the oil that I like and paying someone $30 is costing me $60 to get an oil change. Okay, but at least I'm putting the kind of oil in. But now we're going back to what is being promoted. It's like and I'm not a car mechanic by any means, but if there is no diesel oil, okay, available to run these trucks, why am I getting such a good deal on regular car motor oil, 5W30? Doesn't make sense to me. Don't they like kind of make diesel oil from the same kind of oil that they make car oil? I mean, eventually isn't there like some place that's called crude oil that kind of starts all this? Anyway, all I'm saying is
there could be manipulation that we're just not aware of. The information they give us that we use to reason over why things are happening, I think that information could be deliberately misleading. And actually the real reasons that these manipulators may have access to is something else. So that's why we might see inconsistencies.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's very important for people not to live in fear. And I think it's very important to put God first and to thank creation for you being created. And quite frankly, this is something I find troubling for our creator and for creation. With all the fear that's being thrown out there, just like parents want their children, good parents, okay, want their children to be happy and joyous, all right? I don't think we were created to be miserable. I think that is the corrupt end of this world, okay? The misery part, they probably enjoy that, okay? People who are evil probably get off on seeing other people suffer. But I don't think that we were created to suffer. I believe we were created to be happy and to be joyous, okay? To come from a place of love, to feel good. And that's why I think it's important for people to realize that even though this world has a lot of corruption in it, and it's designed that way for us to be able to have free choice, okay? And we learn a lot. Let's face it, you learn a heck of a lot when you have to go through the University of Hard Knocks, okay? I mean, granted, no one's happy going through the University of Hard Knocks, and I do try to shortcut that in my daily life, but, sometimes you're forced to have to go through it. And I think that's probably where this corruption comes into play. But right now, what we're seeing is a lot of negativity, and I just think it's important that people realize that you're not alone in this. And, look, you contacted me, Dave, after seeing something on YouTube where someone was interviewing to where they were afraid to die. And the reason they were interviewing me was because of a death experience that I had. So I think this world is very much connected, and somebody right now is watching this interview to where they need to hear what we were talking about. And I'm happy for that to happen. And also for anybody else that's watching this interview, if you have any questions and you'd like to, talk like invisible Dave is here because I don't have the technology available to quickly, do this the way people do it professionally. feel free to reach out at opinionsfrommary@gmail.com. I'd be happy to respond back to you because that's how I met you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's communicating and connecting and sharing and all that, and keeping a positive energy up. Like I think that's what some people are doing on YouTube. That these, it seems to me they're putting out a pretty nice positive energy, and you can tune into it, and you feel constructive, and like, okay, there's that benefit that's coming from people that are doing that. And I thought a lot of times I'm in a very negative state, and I'm like pessimistic, and I don't think things are going right, and I just want to rag on how bad it is. Like I do that with my wife sometimes. She gets pretty tired of it, and I don't know if it really serves anybody's. It's like I think a lot of people tune into these broadcasts and stuff because they're looking for some kind of energy. They want to make a change in their mind, in their feelings. They gotta get out of what they're stuck in, and they want to see things differently. They want more energy. They want to feel healthier. So they're sort of seeking out some sort of positive energy flow going toward them. So I think that's one of the things that these YouTubers are doing, serving the community like that. It's kind of unfortunate, with all the sales pitch and everything, like because of money, everybody's got to make money. So that kind of that gets things muddied up a bit.
Well, that's why I'm very thankful for YouTube. And, that's a Google product. And I happen to like, what Google does for me. And I don't mind being tracked with Google and all that because it's a benefit for me. But if I'm shopping for something, and I actually have it to where my tracker is on, because if I'm shopping for something and I don't buy it right away, you better believe I see the ads for what I've been shopping for pop up to where it's like, oh, I didn't know they had that. Okay. And I eventually get what I want. So I'm happy for that. But there's algorithms, okay, for this marketing that is very smart. So if you click on something that's negative, okay, and I'll go back to the $10,000 for gold per ounce thing, all of a sudden that algorithm determines that type of information is something that appeals to you. And so it will actually pull out other similar people or someone that you subscribe to or made a comment on. Okay. It kind of tracks that, and then that'll bring that into your focus. So if you click on one of the negative doomsday things, all of a sudden it's like you're bombarded, or at least I am, with a bunch of other people predicting a bunch of other negative doomsday stuff. And so I think everybody's going through that. And there's not as many good that I've been able to find. It seems like people fear sells, okay? And
they fear what? Fear sells?
Yeah, fear sells. I mean, fear, FEAR, sells, SELLS. So
fear sells.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that term, but that sounds right.
Well,
little fear sources that just pump it out there.
Yeah, so quite frankly, I'm just going to do what I think is appropriate to do at the time it's appropriate to do it, and just let creation do its thing, and whoever needs to hear what we talked about, they're going to find it. Okay? It's going to be sent to them, and if it's someone who doesn't need to hear it, then they won't hear it. So, anyway, I think that pretty much covers everything. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we could go more into your experiences. I was kind of curious about that, but we could do that on another.
Okay. Because we're almost an hour right now, and I don't know about you, but
we can close it off.
Okay. Do you want to?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then in the meantime, let me say to everybody who's been watching that I wish you much joy and happiness in your day-to-day experiences, and that you find great success in every endeavor that comes your way and that you want to have success in. And may that you experience all the blessings that basically creation wants you to have, and that you're happy. Okay. So I say that, and I guess we'll just say goodbye for now. So I'm going to end my
Sounds good.
stream. Okay.
All righty.
All right. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate
Okay.
very much talking to you.
Yep.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
Bye. Okay. And
Is that the end?